on today's World Insight. As the second China Central Asia Summit wraps up in the Kazakh capital Astana, we'll hear outlooks from top Kazakh economy, energy, and finance officials, along with China's International Trade Council chair in tonight's special, Connecting Central Asia.
For the very first time, the China Central Asia Summit is being held in Central Asia, and I am in Astana,
talking to the speakers and delegates to find out exactly what it all means for the region.
with a deeper connection in politics, trade, and transportation links between China and Central Asia.
Where uncertainty provides a global backdrop, but where multiple engagements become the norm.
Join me for a World Insight special, Connecting Central Asia. Hello and welcome to World Insight, our special program Connecting Central Asia. I'm Tian Wei in Astana. The second China Central Asia Summit has wrapped up in Astana with deepening ties and aligned interests. Amid the rapidly changing global landscape, China and Central Asian economies are working together in partnership. Salik Zhumangalan, the Kazakh Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Economy, talked to me on the sidelines of the summit and touched on a few crucial points: high-quality development of the Belt and Road Initiative, how to deal with uncertainties of tariffs, and how new technology developments such as AI can enrich the next step of cooperation between China and Kazakhstan. How do you see the high-quality development of BRI in terms of China-Central Asia cooperation?
Our turnover reached $95 billion. It's an astonishing figure, yes? And half of them is turnover between Kazakhstan and China, $44.8 billion. Two presidents set the goal before us, reach 100.
Is it only issue a number?
$100 million, yes, $1 billion is next 5 years. So it's so many jobs before us.
Yes, especially about digital development, e-commerce, and also even AI in the field. How much potential do you see over there, and what is the basis of this potential?
Now it's AI is one of the preferential direction of Kazakhstan development, and our president set this goal before us, and we have already opened the special authority for AI. It's Astana, Astana. It's like this one, and the special office. You know, this famous bubble in the middle of Astana is now the center of AI. Yes, so Kazakhstan now in the center of this process, and China one of the leader of this process. So I think we will have the great cooperation in this sphere too.
Right. Final question on the tariffs. It's a big headache for businesses around the world. The tariff, and how do you see it is possible that China Central Asia economies can work together, for example, between China and Kazakhstan?
The relations, the trade relations, the turnover between China and Kazakhstan, between China and Central Asia, absolutely independent of these tariffs, yes?
That's Salik Zhumangalan, the Kazakh Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Economy. Ren Hongbin, chairman of CCPIT, brought a few hundred entrepreneurs from China all the way to Astana to attend the second China Central Asia Business Council meeting. According to Ren, more synergy will be nurtured among these communities of China and Central Asian economies. How to create better synergy between entrepreneurs in China and Central Asia, sir?
Welcome for the second China Central Asia Business Council, which is within the framework of China Central Asia Summit. The Chinese government always attaches great importance on the development of bilateral relations between China and Central Asian countries. This time I have brought more than 300 entrepreneurs together with me from China.
Yes.
I think this platform very good opportunity for the synergy and also great potential to tap into the new sectors they have mentioned so much about the trend. E-commerce is part of that. I think it's most important taking the bilateral endowment or the bilateral advantages of the structure of industries. I think on the basis of infrastructure and energy, I think we have to encourage companies to move to the transition of the energy and also digitalization of the industry and economy there. And because in China has been taking the lead in the high tech, especially in the renewable energies.
Absolutely.
I think in these areas there is great potential.
Your counterpart, the vice premier of the country, who is also the industry minister, he said earlier about tariff. He said what we are doing here is actually the way to cooperate and against the tariffs. Do you agree with him?
The tariff war or trade war disrupts the international trade order. It can damage the interest of every country. I think nobody can be immune from that. That's why I think that is the common voice between China and Central Asian countries to firmly oppose any kind of protectionism and unilateralism.
How to attract more businesses from here to participate in our international supply chain expo? I mean, a lot of people are looking forward to it. I've been talking to Central Asian business persons.
Yes, I have sent my sincere invitation for them to come to the third edition of the CISAE. But still, I think so many people being aware of the importance of the supply chain expo. We encourage companies to be engaged, to be embedded into the industrial and the supply chains there. I think that will be the future of China Central Asian companies' cooperation there.
Ren Hongbin, chairman of CCPIT. As China and Central Asian countries deepen their relations, energy cooperation is vital. From cross-border pipelines to new green transition projects, Kazakhstan, with its rich natural resources and strategic location, has been a key partner in this effort. Kazakhstan aims to have 50% of its electricity generated by renewables by 2050. Here is my latest conversation with Ilyas Bakhajan, Deputy Minister of Energy in Kazakhstan. Mr. Vice Minister, what a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for joining us out of a very busy schedule. Now, what do you think is the latest trend and development of China-Kazakhstan cooperation, especially in the renewable energy, which is the potential?
Indeed, Kazakhstan has numerous potential for the development of renewable energy. And as a party of the Paris Agreement, we have set ourselves ambitious goals for 2050 to ensure that the share of renewable energy in our country's energy system reaches 50%. This is a very ambitious task that requires solving complex and multifaceted challenges. China is a global leader in the production of renewable energy, and we are very interested in establishing a strategic partnership with leading Chinese companies in this sector. In the field of renewable energy, our cooperation will be focused on several concrete areas. First, joint planning for the development of the energy system, taking into account the share of renewable energy. Second, training specialists for the new energy sector. Third, localizing equipment production in Kazakhstan. Fourth, joint investment into Kazakhstan's energy system. These are specific steps we plan to take together with our Chinese partners over the coming years. At the forum, a power purchase agreement has been signed between the Settlement and Financial Center of Kazakhstan and Chinese energy investment for the purchase of 1.8 gigawatts of electricity from a wind power plant. This is considered a very large investment project for Kazakhstan.
Mr. Vice Minister, I understand you have been in charge of the country's digital corridor for quite some years. So I guess you're the right person to ask that question. How do you think the latest development of digital technology, artificial intelligence, combined with the huge potential of green development in your country?
Kazakhstan is actively developing artificial intelligence. We're not only developing infrastructure for computing power, but also developing Kazakhstan's own language model, Kaz LLM. We are actively using all open-source AI models. We have very effective cooperation with Chinese companies. Of course, we use the DeepSeek platform.
Конечно, мы используем платформу DeepSeek. Но энергетический сектор является...
Energy is a strategic sector. In this regard, we use our own closed Kazakh AI models within the industry. This is, of course, due to the fact that the energy sector is part of Kazakhstan's critical infrastructure.
Казахстанские языковые модели искусственного интеллекта. Модели искусственного интеллекта позволяют...
AI models make it possible to plan the generation of electricity from renewable sources with high precision. AI models also allow for high-quality planning of electricity consumption by the industrial sector and by households. AI models make it possible to create very high-quality, large-scale database to support decision-making by industry specialists.
Специалистами в отрасли.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Vice Minister, for helping us to understand this. For the very first time, the China Central Asia Summit is being held in Central Asia, and I am in Astana.
Talking to the speakers and delegates to find out exactly what it all means for the region.
With a deeper connection in politics, trade, and transportation links between China and Central Asia.
Where uncertainty provides a global backdrop, but where multiple engagements become the norm.
Join me for a World Insight special, Connecting Central Asia. Welcome back. World Insight, our special program here in Central Asia. I'm Tian Wei. This is our special program called Connecting Central Asia. As the world grapples with rising trade barriers, the need for stable, forward-looking partnerships has never been greater. In Astana, I had an in-depth conversation with Ranat Bagturov, the Astana International Financial Center governor, on how the region is taking the opportunities of rapidly changing international and regional landscape to develop financial cooperation with the rest of the world, such as crucial players like China. I see that both sides, the leaders of China and Kazakhstan, have seen not only the realities but also the potential between the two countries. How much do you think the interactions between the two countries can bring more potential and clarity to this strategic cooperation?
For Kazakhstan, this neighborship is a huge opportunity. Even in Astana International Financial Center, we are experiencing that. Last year when we've met here, we had under 3,000 companies registered. Less than a year have passed, now we have 4,000 companies, so almost like 30% increase in the companies that registered in AFC. And those 4,730 are from China or have as Chinese capital. Just this year, only more than 100 companies have registered. There are big stories, small stories. For example, CNPC has registered CNPC Central Asia in AFC just recently to manage its assets where it has a large or small stake in the region in all of the countries. This is among the big stories, but there are so many other stories, startups, fintech solutions companies that come in. And I believe that opportunities are even more in many areas, transport and logistics, right? Of course, the middle corridor and how it connects to the Belt and Road Initiative, it's a huge investment topic. It's not just an idea, it's an investment topic. People actually can invest into the projects in a hard infrastructure or in a soft infrastructure. And it is, again, happening in the AFC. You know, there are a number of companies who are registered here to develop the transportation routes between the countries, connecting it to from China all the way to the west, right? And again, during the visit in Xi'an, that was the first train that started in Xi'an, and in 10 days it was already in Baku. That's super fast, right? Because from Baku, then you can get to a Black Sea, and then that's pretty much Europe. And then the maritime routes takes 60 to 90 days. And this is one of the stories. There is a huge story of the rare earth or critical minerals, right? And I've been to China before COVID, and there was after, and there was like again, super fascinated how EV have, I wouldn't say developed, it's just like soared, exactly. But I think it's not only about trade, but I think Kazakhstan can play a role in the supply chain, actually. We are endowed with natural resources, especially of critical minerals. Of course, those assets are subsoil and they need investment. That's where the AFC plays role as a hub that facilitates investment into the project. But again, the potential in cooperation in this area is huge.
Right.
Again.
So how do you see this relationship well tested over the past 10 to 20 years already during the ups and downs? And what does that mean at a time when we really need trusted partners?
As if it happened yesterday, but already 12 years have passed since the announcements of the BRI initiative, right? And this has been, I think, transformative for the region, for Central Asia, but a wider Asian region. All those who are part of the BRI, right? A lot of the hard infrastructure was built again in Kazakhstan. It's railroads. It's one of the fundamental relationship that our countries have is in oil and gas, right? So we have this oil pipeline built between our countries and which is to be expanded, right? We have a dry port Horgos, one of the, I don't know, big infrastructure points between our countries was built, right? And now we're in discussion of building a second crossing between the big crossing between our countries, and potentially even third one that shows, right, how big is this partnership is happening. The financial access with the Shanghai Stock Exchange becoming the shareholder of AX, China Construction Bank coming in and opening its branch in AFC. This is like big stories that everyone knows, but also Brilliant Group has a bank in AFC as well and actively developing in CNPC story I have told you, right? It's only the part that is taking place in Kazakhstan. All the Central Asian countries, I'm sure they can talk about a lot of the projects. I think in Kazakhstan now there are more than 50 different projects taking place within like a BRI initiative. And again, this is not the end. It's just like
we are just starting.
Yeah, we are just starting. The flow of capital, the flow of technology, the flow of minds and ideas. That's what the BRI was so far. And even in sustainable finance, like we are the local chapter for BRI's great green bonds initiative, right? And AFC was a pioneer in the region. You know, we have discussed the first bonds in 2020. We have discussed how this became a 2 billion market now, but we're also trying to share that experience with our neighbors. So just last year in December, before COP29 in Baku, one of the private banks in Baku issued first green bonds in Baku, and our Green Finance Center helped with that. We have helped number of issuers in Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan to issue green and social bonds. Especially, I remember the one with the Kyrgyz bank, it was a gender bonds, which the proceeds they then used as the loans for women entrepreneurs. This is also very important, so that all the different groups in the societies can participate in economic activity, right? So if you look at it again, this is not only about the first order effects of BRI, right? Investment in hardware products, infrastructure, I mean, but it's a third and second order effects, right? This financial, this like women entrepreneurship, green agenda, all this kind of stuff. I mean, we can talk about
there are already rippling effects of it, right? Everywhere, yes. Almost.
Yes, and I think China itself is a huge market, right? It was very internalized, but now we see that it's becoming, as you said, like a connector, right? Within the ASEAN region, within the Central Asia, and ready to share this growth story with those countries.
I think it's well articulated already very clearly by the Chinese side that China needs a prosperous Central Asia,
yep.
Needs a prosperous Kazakhstan in the neighborhood and together. Meanwhile, it's also well said, Kazakhstan and other Central Asian countries can be on this ride with China for more prosperity. I learned a lot of stories how our supply chains are linked. For example, in EV,
Some of the local producers provide supply chain components to Chinese EV manufacturers. And together they are trying to look at what is the potential of the European market. So all these stories, it seems that the intertwining and the wovening of mutual benefits is becoming ever more, shall I say, firmer and indispensable. So what does that mean for the financial services? I would love to ask you, how would you be able to elevate your service and your support for this already another layer of cooperation?
Sure. Financial system itself is like in a body, it's your blood vessels, right? So you have to have a body, which means you have to have this economic relationship or infrastructure relationship, which are in the place, right? But we need the financial system that can effectively allocate capital within this, not just country, within this huge region, right? So that the best projects can get financed. That's the sustainability, right? If the good ideas can raise enough capital to grow, that's what we're trying to do. As a new financial center, we don't have a lot of the legacy in terms of the infrastructure legacy, right? Something that was invested a lot and now we cannot change. What I mean, for example, in the digital asset space, right? This is a huge topic, and I think this can be transformative for the financial industry. So AFC is very open to that. We are very open both for, I'm not talking about the cryptocurrencies only, it's about the tokenization of assets, of real world assets, so that the instruments that are not usually liquid can be more liquid and tradable, so we can have more price discovery. And we have already a few cases. It's also about international trade and settlement. One of the startups from Hong Kong, AnchorX, they got recently a license from our regulator, Astana Financial Services, to create a stable coin in yuan, in RMB, so that the payments and financial connection between the countries can be more effective. If you look at the stable coins, the most popular today, USDT and USDC, right? This is a huge tools that were used globally. So if there is an alternative, or if there is also a stable coin to yuan, I think, given how big is the Chinese economy and the ripple effect that we talked about, potentially this is a big idea that can again facilitate even more trade and more connection between the countries. Of course, capital markets is always important. I've been telling this, and I see this changing, is that first 10 years of BRI was more debt finance, but
now it's
BRI
very different.
2.0, it has to have many aspects. It cannot be only debt driven. It has to be also equity driven, right? So that we share the risk, and we also see that happening. That's why the number of companies that are setting up in AFC are increasing, right? So they're coming with the capital, putting in the capital. This is also important because, again, this has to be a mutual win-win situation. Therefore, we need to share the risk, right? All the parties need to share the risk.
Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in the world is the tariff war, one economy against the rest of the world. Of course, different economies might be impacted differently. What does the uncertainties as a result of tariff war mean to AIFC as a new and rising financial hub?
Of course, there will always be a residual risk, but when the risk becomes this huge and unpredictable as the tariff wars, that has a big impact. In our case, I think, again, this is somewhat is an opportunity, right? Because a lot of the companies that come into AFC, they're focused in our region, and from here, maybe Europe, right? So it's not exactly the hub for trading with the US, right? For that, we have different hubs globally, right? So again, it's actually the global producers, they're trying to find new markets around us, then somewhat, again, this increases the interest in AFC and in the region. And I mean, AFC is just a point of entry, right? That the infrastructure we created.
So you see business world are becoming ever more creative in finding their own solutions, as a result linking to you,
both
right?
Finding new market, but also new financial solutions, including digital solutions, as I said. Again, the challenges push you to be more creative.
I know creativity is great, but still it's not the whole picture. So what does that mean to you? Does it mean that you are more concentrating on your region And as a result of that, AIFC shines even more than it used to be. How are you working with other multilateral financial institutions or platforms?
Well, thanks. That's a great question, actually. So AFC, we went from this building stage, right, foundation stage, now to exactly a stage of connection and strategic growth. And in this stage, connectivity plays a huge, connectivity is the word. We are connecting with many different centers, especially in the global south. So everyone trying to come up with the solution that can create this predictable environment. Again, predictability is that you understand the rules, right? The rules will not change. It doesn't mean that, again, you can predict any risk that can happen. This is not possible.
That we are all having the same rules and everybody respect the rules.
And in terms of regulation, connectivity is also important. Therefore, our regulator is a member of a multilateral agreement within the IOSCO, within the Basel Committee. So again, all the regulators and connected, they can share their ideas and thoughts, discuss it. This is also important because you don't want same rules to have, everyone have same rules. Of course, there will be certain peculiarities in each jurisdiction, but however, the logic should be there, right? You don't want to come up with the broken logic in the solutions, especially in the regulation. You want it to be open, but prudent.
And that's all the time we have for this edition of our special program, Connecting Central Asia. I'm Tian Wei on behalf of my team. Thanks for being with us. Bye for now.